All right, welcome back. Let's get back on track with our talks. One announcement, if you are a speaker, to go up to the audio stand in the back to get mic'd up before your presentation. So if you see your presentation coming up, go on back to the audio team back there and get mic'd up so that you're ready to go before you're ready to go on stage. And with that, we're going to start now with Hima Mandali. Hope I get it. And he's going to tell us if they continually loop the Samuel L. Jackson commercial in their office all the time.
Hello, everybody. Can you all hear me? Yeah. All right, so my name is Hima Mandali, and I'm from Capital One, and I'm here to talk about what's in your wallet. And that's the name of my talk, right? So a little bit background about me. I went to school in Germany, and I drank a lot of beer. And while I'm drinking beer, I also got my master's degree in robotics and automation. And I worked for Nokia Research and Department in Germany, Spain, and Finland for 4 years, writing games, apps, and mobile phones. Primarily acted as a Java developer. And I moved to the States maybe 10 years ago, started doing a couple of consulting gigs as test framework, automation architect, and all that. And 7 years ago, I started working with Capital One, and I've been with Capital One ever since. So my current job at Capital One is DevOps team lead, building frameworks, new tools, infrastructure, cloud controls, and CI/CD pipelines, all the DevOps work that in Capital One does. I'm involved in it. And I'm part of small business and credit card technology department in Capital One. And working for a technology company like Capital One allowed me to do lots of cool things, and that's one of the reasons why I'm with Capital One. So how many of you have heard about Capital One? All right, still there are some hands. So I'm going to take the help of my friend to introduce you guys to one of our primary business in Capital One. So let's take it away, Sam.
I'm going to make this as simple as possible for you. You can go ahead and stick with that complicated credit card that limits where you earn bonus cash back. Or you can get the Quicksilver card from Capital One. Quicksilver earns you unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase, everywhere. I shouldn't have to ask. What's in your wallet?
So everything sounds cooler if that comes out of that guy's mouth. So, and as you can see, we are one of the primary credit card company. So just give you guys a quick glance of our company. Let's get to the important stuff first. We are the proud sponsor for Orange Bowl. It's a annual school football playoff sponsoring game, and we also happen to be a leading diversified bank with billions of dollars of assets, loans, and deposits. So and also one of the fourth largest credit card issuer in the States, and this is the department I work for, and the third largest small business credit card consumers in the state and issuers in the state, and also one of the biggest direct banks with lots of deposits. And most importantly, we have around 70 million customers and 45,000 associates, and also a Fortune 500 company. So let's take a quick look at, since we have 70 million customers, I want to have a quick look at what's the preferred banking method for, the consumers out here. So as you can see, internet and mobile banking has taken over every other banking method put together, all right? And also there is another observation where, the mobile users has very well suppressed the web users, and this is the future, right? So users are spending more time in the mobile phones than sitting at home checking the desktop browsers and all that stuff. Okay, and so now I want to ask you all the question: what's really in your wallet? So the answer is the mobile phone, right? So, so the mobile phones are replacing, your wallet. So 10 years ago, I remember carrying this big wallet. I used to have a fat, everywhere bulged up, right, when I keep my wallet. And then it started getting thinner and thinner, right? And these days, I don't really take my wallet everywhere, just my driver's license and my phone. I pay with my phone, and I do most of the transactions with the phone. So with that said, Capital One has also started, going into this journey of, becoming digital company. So we are building lots of cool products that provides amazing digital customer experience. So primarily, we are building web apps and native apps and all that cool stuff. So we want to make sure the customer preferred channels, we take a good look at them and start building all those stuff. All right. So having said that, for today's talk, I'll be focusing on how we solve the test automation problem in the mobile devices for web applications. So I'm going to pick one of the applications that most of our customers access, a credit card online application, and what did we do, and also want to share what did we do to accelerate our delivery pipeline. Okay. So to get a little bit deeper into our, the problem statement, we do have an web-based application where we have millions and millions of customers. They use our website, they log in, and then do lots of transactions, payments, and all that stuff, right? So for the test automation, we have lots of opportunities. So the number one is, like every other company, we go through the testing pyramid and all those cool things. But we started using, for the mobile devices especially, at first we started heavily using simulators and emulators. And later, after some point of time, the device lists start growing, and we started observing defects in, some defect leakage. Like, for example, the real devices, we can see the defects, and the simulators, we couldn't catch them. I mean, those are minor things, but for a bank, it's a big deal. So to give you guys one example, we found out for one of the browser, Android versions, we had the pay bill button was overlapped with another button, and it's very important. Being a financial institution, make sure you have everything, the real estate, useful for the customer, right? And so because of that, we have to do lots of, the real device testing, right? And we increased the scope of the real device tests. And also, while we are doing it, we had an opportunity to increase the automated test coverage, where we have to write more tests. But again, while increasing the device numbers, we had an opportunity to, how we can also run the tests on an automated DevOps pipeline. As we heard from the keynote, immediate feedback is very important for any company on the tests that you run and stuff. Okay, and also, faster also, right? Not only running the test and the continuous, DevOps pipeline. Faster text executions is also important, and also quality delivery to production on an hourly basis is also, that's where we want to get into. Like we were like in a monthly release schedule where the testing used to be a great big deal. Like we have like bunch of devices, all kinds of testing, manual testing and automated testing. So it's everywhere. So we thought of, finding a good solution to first address our the biggest pain problem where our automation tests in the mobile devices is taking a lot of time. And so what we did is, so we looked around like every other company. We didn't want to build, something new and, be out of. So we started exploring for open source tools. So we love open source, and also we like to contribute it back. So what we did is we put together a high-level framework. So the application that we have is a Java-based application that all the customers in online, they access the application. So what we did was, we added some more in-depth to our test automation. So we brought in Cucumber for behavioral tests for functional. So for all the Java tests, we added Cucumber Java for the functional test. And for the layout test, we started using Gallon. So in case if you guys don't know, everything is open source. Gallon is an open source for responsive web design tests and all that. And like we started using Appium to run the tests in Android and iOS and all that. So most importantly, we categorized all our tests into different capabilities. For example, if I'm giving the same example as the online application where customers are servicing the credit card, where, for example, account summary is one capability, right? So I have all the layout and functional tests stacked together in one single capability, so I get to run the test. I cover everything for one capability, and I run that in multiple devices. And also for reporting purpose, we want to make sure we get a good visibility to the test reports, like the functional test report and layout test report. There are many options to get the reports in HTML or JSON and all that. Just for the easy sake, we picked up the HTML report generation. So when you run the test, you cover those two parallelly, the functional layout test for single capability, and the test results, you'll get it into HTML files. And to give you guys more in-depth of the hybrid framework we have, the functional test, I don't have to explain much, but I'll just go high level. So we are using Cucumber Java, validating. The functional is nothing but Cucumber gave us a capability to write more behavior tests. For a product owner, for everybody, we can own the main intent of the application behavior and all that. Examples like scheduling a payment, checking the error messages or confirmation messages, the basic functionality. And also the layout test, this really helped us a lot. We didn't have this before. We started using our existing Java test. We added more tests to write layout tests using Gallon. And basically, we validate visual and display aspects of a page, and also display the location of buttons and menus in a page. So as I said, we are a financial institution, and every bit of layout is important to us, including the button, including the color of a button, right? And we take quality engineering very seriously inside the Capital One. And also location of buttons and menus, and responsive design, and appearance of payable button or card image, and all that stuff. So let me give you a high-level example. For example, I have to display a card, maybe a venture card customer that logs into Capital One account. And the actual image size is different from the expected image size. So what Gallon does, the layout test does, is it does the pixel comparison, where you can see the difference, the comparison map. The Gallon does that and then gives you a nice report, and even the HTML report, you can see the screenshots and everything. And also just another way of looking into is like header. So Capital One header, the logo need to be center aligned and all that. So this is an example of how we do the layout test and all that. So what I did is I put together a quick demo to show you guys on how we do the test, and it's like a 2-3 minutes quick video. I'm going to show a quick demo video on running test cases parallelly by hooking up real devices on Mac machine. So for the demonstration purpose, I'm just using the a single test case, and where I'm going to use, so imagine I'm using one Mac with 2 Android tablet and a device, phone are attached. I'm using a real phone emulator, so it's like just a reflection of the real phone in here. So whatever you guys see here is the real phone. So let's play the video, please. All right, so this is the hybrid framework I spoke to you guys about, Gallon, Cucumber, and the test case that you have is the functional test case in the Cucumber format, where I want to schedule a payment on a mobile phone. So I specified a mobile phone test case and report. I want to get mobile report. Successfully able to submitting a payment, where these are the steps I want to take in for my test. And given the user clicks into the account, logs in, all the good stuff, and makes the payment successfully. So this is a functional test case on a mobile phone. I have the tablet too. So this is a Gallon test I wrote. I have a make a payment button. I want to make sure the button is visible. It belongs to the font size and all the button specifications, and also the title of the page, header, is not exceeding 200 pixels. So let me kick off the test. So for the demonstration purposes, we are running the tests parallelly, and what you see is the real device popping up the real devices in there as a screen emulator. So, and again, in the real world, after all this, we used Jenkins to do all that stuff. I'm going to share that later. So we kicked off the tests. It will start 2 Appium sessions, and these are the 2 devices that I spoke to you about. Those are really hooked up to the real Mac machine. So one is Android tablet, and the other one is Android phone. So for the test, as you guys can see, just making sure a user is able to submit a payment successfully. So you're able to log in, go to payment screen. So this is an account summary page, and you go to the payment screen and submit a payment. So it does run the test parallelly, and also it is validating both the layout and the functional test parallelly. So the tests are completed on the tablet, and the tests are getting completed on the other device. All right, looks like the tests are completed. So we have 4 reports, as I said. So for the mobile browser, so for the mobile, all the green cucumber test report, HTML, everything is passing. You can see the test executions, and also for the tablet, it's passing. So now I'm going to show you the review button test case. It passed for, the review button is displayed the same in both the devices. I wrote a negative test case to check the header size. I gave the actual header size as a tablet header size. The test case failed for the mobile phone because the header size is smaller when you compare to tablet, and that's why you see the failure. And now for the tablet device, you can see the test being passed. All right, so it does the pixel comparison and all that stuff. Okay, now let's get back to the slides, please. So what we did is, so the basic framework, whatever you guys saw, what we did is internally we set up a private cloud device lab. So we set up, we built in our own infrastructure and tools and everything. So we wrote RESTful APIs to do Appium device management. I can't go too many details into it, but again, it should be simple. If you guys can have a cloud environment, do all the devices. So we set up a device lab where users can access the devices virtually and run the tests. And also we added a bunch of servers and devices that can connect to each other and everything. So, with this type of framework, we were able to run more test cases and also run parallelly faster and everything. So we have everything ready. So, and one other little piece that's missing is how can we get into, accelerate our delivery pipeline, right? We are running the test, but there is no good way of checking the test results and making some decisions. So while we have the DevOps best practices inside the Capital One, we build our pipeline. So this is, for example, your tests running in a pipeline, right? So it is very strong, right? So all the tests are passing, you can go into production. So if a pipeline is like this, I'll go into production every hour, right? And if you see something like that, I would ask you, do you want to go into production? So what we do, what we also built together is we built an internal tool inside the Capital One to visualize the software delivery pipeline. So what this does is we named it as Hygeia, the name of the health goddess or something, goddess of health. All right, I got it right. So what it does is it gives us the real-time, feedback for all the tests that you're running and all that in one single dashboard. Okay, so, and again, in the software delivery, we have many tools, right? We're all using Jenkins, but there is no good way of seeing the test results in one single dashboard. So this is how it looks. And again, this is all mock data, right? Since we are a bank, we can't share what we have inside. So I try to populate with all the mock data as much as I can. So this is how our DevOps dashboard looks like. So what it has, to give a little bit background on how this is built, we do have set of collectors that extract data from all the types of tools and save the data in a NoSQL database. And we also build set of REST APIs to expose the data from the database. And the UI application that you guys are seeing here, it's a Java-based application where written in JavaScript, and this calls the REST APIs to fetch the fresh data. So, the tracking the health of the software delivery pipeline is, you can see the entire. So, the view that you guys are seeing here is a feature view, right? So, in the extreme left of the feature, where you can see, you can plug in the Jira version 1, the stories that you have, right? So, for example, I'm developing a feature called account summary. I will have all the stories and the requirements lined up in that widget. I can configure it by Jira version 1, whatever tool you have. And also, there is a code repo widget that you see downstairs. It's you can hook up the GitHub subversion 1 information. So it's all about configuring. You don't have to do too much of heavy lifting. If you just install this in like 3 different steps, you can just configure this tool. And code repo, you can see the number of code commits per day and everything by just plugging in your Git information. It just extracts the data from the all the backend systems. And the build, right? So we all use. For us, we use Jenkins jobs, and you can we all get the good view of the build views by hooking up the Jenkins information for all the builds. And also the quality, which is really, really important for us. We made this widget flexible where we can hook up any test that you run. For example, Sonar, right? For the unit test violations and all that, you can see that over there, the Sonar violations. And also for security scans, if you have any security tests that you're running in HP 45 or whatever tool you use, you get to use that, the details in here, hook it up there. And also, if you're running Cucumber Java, Cucumber Selenium, any functional tests in here, you can populate it here. And also, if you're running any performance tests, also, you can just configure it over here. And also, most importantly, the deploy aspect of it is what I like. Is where I see teams going and beating up the people who are not are in red. So all the green stuff is good. So we mainly focus on the red stuff. So for deploy, it can be configured to Jenkins, or maybe if you are using udeploy, it can be configured as well, right? So let me show you since I spoke about the mobile test cases that we ran, let me show you how our test cases are populated inside the Hygeia. So I'm going to focus on the functional tests. So we can populate in any widget. So I picked functional test widget. I configured all the tests that I'm running in Jenkins pipeline in here, and you can run many tests. You can throw in any test cases you want. You can configure any devices you want. So for us, we run almost for every release, for a major critical releases, we run around 12 to 13 number of devices to make sure all our applications are working properly. So for functional test, we can give the names tablet 4, S4, and all that, whatever you want to do, right? So, and also the good feature in our dashboard is, you can hover over. So all the data you see here, it doesn't end here. You can hover to any other point, and then you'll get more details to it. So for example, I have, so the percentages you see, they're 100% test pass. Okay, so that's the test pass percentage. So I have tablet 4 pass 100%. So in case if I am curious to know how my test cases are passing, I can click on it, and then I can expand the test. I can see the features inside the test. And also there is another expand button. If you do that, you can see the steps involved in the test as well. So without even looking into different tools and all that, this dashboard gave us a good visibility to, to check all our tests. And also, since I showed the past test cases, let's pick one of the bad boys here. The 40% the iPad tests are failing. So let's see why they're failing. So if you click on it, you will see the 40% test cases that were there. And if you can expand in it, you can see more details on the features that were run for that test. And also, you can see more details if you click on the view test job on the over type, the top corner. You will get the details of your Jenkins job and everything. So it's a we found it very useful, and And again, with this good consolidated view, every team that are responsible for delivering things, they don't have to check in like in 10 or 15 systems and then see what is failing and what this. So this gave us a good visibility to make real-time decisions, and you don't have to ask people. They can just look and see if they're ready for production or not, right? And also there is another view to the dashboard that we built. It's a product view where you can see the entire software delivery pipeline from commit to the production. So, based on the feature, a program team or, a product owner can take a look at it and see how much time it's taking me to go into production. And the greens are all the good things and reds are all the bad things. So you can hover over, check more details, and, go through each and everything. And also the best part of this, which I really like, is the pipeline health, where you see the 80% for the Tetris project that we have. You can see 80, 92, and 43. If you can hover over it, it'll give you more and more details on, how is the pipeline health looking and everything, okay? So if I see some of you taking pictures and stuff, so I'll save you some time. So our DevOps dashboard is open source, so you can shamelessly steal this in GitHub. So, and it. Thank you. So again, this is the hard work from lots of DevOps engineers in Capital One, and this is what we do on a day-to-day basis, solve problems, and that's why I'm with Capital One for 7 years. So you can download this, configure it. If you have questions, you can just post it, and we are very, very good responsive in answering. So there's some issues out there, so you can be contributing and talking to us and all that. So with that being said, I shared 2 things that we are doing internally. One is how we solve the problem of mobile device test automation, and also how we dashboarded everything that we are running in a software delivery pipeline. All right, and that's it, guys. Any questions?
Very good.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hima. All right, we can go to questions. I actually have one question while we're setting up. Do they at Capital One just give you a whole bunch of test accounts filled with millions of dollars? Oh, no, wait.
Yeah.
That's Wells Fargo. Sorry. Oh. Hey, easy. Just the jokes, folks.
Yeah, so, no, but to answer your question, I belong to small business, right? We generate the virtual test data for just, for fun's sake. I can configure millions of dollars, play around with it. We call them high spender accounts. So we really have people with a lot of money.
That is not modeling my behavior.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can. I need to refresh. Any question from the room? While we're waiting, it's all right. Let me get the microphone over to you.
And also, while we are getting the microphone, I have 2 people from my team. I'm fortunate to have my guys here, Bini and Uday. You guys can hit them up with questions, not only me. And they were part of these projects as well, so feel free.
So how does your build pipeline change if there's a breaking incident and you need to push the product as quickly as possible? Because I saw there was commit, QA, blah, 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 all that other stuff. So I'm wondering, how do you circumnavigate that? Or do you run a different set of tests? What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So yeah, if everything is green, we don't have to talk about it, right? So if there is reds, that's where you go and click that and see what type of tests we have. So primarily, if those are not high priority test cases, right? So we make an informed based decision, like, can we go, is it safe to go into production based on what we see on the number of failures, or sometimes when we run the tests in the cadences, right? We run the high priority tests in maybe 10 times a day, low priority tests 3 times a day, right? So based on the type of tests we run and based on what we see in the dashboard, we make that call. And again, every product is different, and also we look into the aspects of, how much of a customer impact will it have, right? So.
All right. And what security testing tools do you use for Android devices?
Android devices, security testing tools. All right. So for the Android devices, we do have internal security tools. So we have, we have some security scans that we do. We use variety of tests. And again, Fortify is one of them, and there's lots of internal. We build some internal security tools as well by mixing 2 or 3 open source products.
Okay, and I think we have time for one more. How much value do you actually get from pixel comparison tests versus flakiness?
All right, that's really a tough and good question. So the pixel comparison test is very important for us because whatever we display, we don't want to display some other product, right? And again, if a customer is making a payment, the button needs to be green, right? I'm just giving some examples. So if the color of the button is grayed out, most of the times they were not able to hit that button or something. So there is this customer mindset when they see a different color, they think it's grayed out and they will not even do some transaction in it, right? So for us, that's very important. And again, the flakiness, it happens everywhere. We have to deal with the same way how Google does. We, sometimes we tweak our code as well to see how many who are writing the test to just get along with it. And also sometimes we do code reviews and all the best practices that are out there. So.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you, Hima.
All right, thank you.